Make one mistake as an explosive detection dog handler. That pink mist only happens once.
All right, welcome to another episode of Suburban Tactical. Today, we've got Dave Seamands with us. Dave's a proud good old boy, and he'll tell you that himself. And I'm going to kind of let him go tap dance around what he does and how he does it. But he's got a lot of interest in guns, night vision, I see on the floor. Thermal. Yeah. Sorry.
My whole gun.
Your whole gun. Okay. But yeah, I'll just let you tell us a little bit about yourself.
And 1 second first.
Well, thank you.
Those are all laser engraved, and we do all that here. You don't have to wear
the right number too. 112.
Yeah, those Richardsons are one of the better hats.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that, Randy.
That's all right.
Thank you.
That's all right. You stepped on him because he was just about to tell us who he is, what he does, how he does it.
Well, Dave Seamands. I graduated from Spring Hill High School here in lovely Kansas, and I joined the military, and I spent 20 long years in the military. It was the best of times and the worst of times. I was a military police canine handler, and retired as a first sergeant.
You were in the Army?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Enjoyed every minute of it, and hated every minute of it. I guess that's, that's the best and the worst. I retired back in 2011. Started working with Department of Homeland Security with Federal Protective Services out in Washington, D.C. as their National Canine Program Manager. And some family things happened. My dad passed away, and he was taking care of my grandmother. So canine handler position opened up with Homeland Security, Transportation Securities, and here in Kansas City. So I got to come back. Worked out well. I was home. I was happy around family again. And they did some reallocation of resources, so we ended up moving to the Dallas area in 2016 for about 8 years. Worked at the DFW airport and the Love Field airport there in downtown Dallas. Loved every minute of it. Been working an explosive detection dog that actually searches people for explosives. I'm on my second dog with Homeland Security in 15 years.
What's your dog's name?
Well, I have my canine's name is Luger, my current one. My retired dog, who retired in 2011 or 2021, excuse me. He passed away in December 16th this past year at 13 years, 7 months. And he was pretty much my canine of a life. He's a canine of a lifetime.
Wow.
So,
wow.
He was a good one. He was named in honor of his name was Hilbert. He was named in honor of a soldier that was killed in Iraq in 2007.
Wow.
Roadside bomb.
That's cool.
Down in Venus, Texas is where the kid's buried. So we used to go down and spend time with the family for memorials and stuff like that. And kid's mother would take the leash, and I wouldn't see Hilbert for 15, 20 minutes, and she'd just be showing him around, and that put a smile on her face, and that's what it's all about.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Now, I know that when Hilbert just passed away, that I want you to talk a little bit about give a plug for Paws of Honor and how that works.
Paws of Honor is an organization that actually takes care of. It's a nonprofit that takes care of any retired working dogs that need their health care, any special foods or anything like that. So it takes the burden off of the handlers, because once the canines are retired, a lot of organizations look at them like a piece of equipment, so they just stop. They don't have insurance. They stop taking care of them. Paws of Honor actually pays those bills for them.
Okay.
They pay the vet bill. They pay any special prescriptions they need. They took care of the cremation. They took care of the vet coming to my house to actually put Hilbert down in a comfortable environment.
Right.
It was just there. It's an organization that I can't plug enough for. I just turned 52 about 3 weeks ago, and I did a fundraiser on Facebook, and my goal was $1,500, and friends and family actually helped me hit that goal, which was, I'd never seen somebody do a fundraiser for their birthday and hit it. And I actually was really proud that we hit that.
That's cool.
That's very cool.
So I donate my time to them. I give them about 200 hours a year, soliciting and helping get them moving along. So yeah, great organization.
That's cool. I'm a dog person, so I really like that.
I remember that from the airport.
Yeah.
He didn't even know what I looked like. He remembered the dog though.
Yeah, I saw the dog. I was out. There he is. Yeah, we met together at the airport, and he told me where he was at, and I saw the dog. I was like, there he is. Yeah. But yeah, and we got a picture of Luger. We'll post up or we'll put up here if that's all right.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
We had to put our lab down last year, and we had them come to the house, and that was so much nicer than the alternative.
Yeah, that Lap of Love is an amazing program. I was a buddy of mine who worked with me here in Kansas City. He's now in Dallas, Fort Worth as well. He went down there, and he had lost his dog 2 weeks prior, which they were a month apart in age, and they'd worked together here in Kansas City and in Dallas. And he pointed it out to me, and it made it a lot more honorable, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. It is so tough losing an animal.
Yep, I lost one too. So, yeah,
I think if you're a dog person, you should be born with a dog, and that dog should, no matter how you pass away, that dog passes away when you do.
That would be nice.
In a perfect world.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Be a lot easier that way, as long as it was a good dog.
Exactly. You wouldn't have to get traded out, huh?
I've had a couple that.
It seems like, I know to me, and it's probably not everybody, but it always seems like your last dog was your best dog, at least in my scenario.
Yeah.
I can't say that yet, but we'll see.
So tell us a little bit how you come about getting the dog. I mean, what's the training like? Because there's somebody working with the dog before you, or do you get it when it's a puppy? Or
there is, they are very young when we do get them, but their initial training is done at Lackland Air Force Base. There's the Department of Defense trains down there. We call it the Mecca, the Canine Mecca for us. Department of Defense is all there. All branches of service train their dogs there, and then Transportation Security Administration kind of hopped on the bandwagon because most of the people in our program for trainers and evaluators and a lot of the handlers are all previous military.
Okay.
It is a really special skill. It's a fine-tuned skill. I ended up having to go through the exact same school when I retired because they hadn't worked out the process of saying, oh, well, you can be grandfathered in or something like that. So did another 3.5 months down there. But the dogs are trained initially by trainers to like your basic level,
right.
Skill level 1. And then we kind of like in the military, it's a skill level 1 is like your basic privates after basic training. And then you work up to skill level 5, which would be your first sergeants and sergeant majors. So we work them once we get them out of the field. We kind of do that. So they spend probably 3 to 6 months and 3 to 9 months probably out in San Antonio.
Okay.
And it's bits and pieces of training each day, but once they get that consistency down, they get them to where they're actually able to go out to the field, and then they advance their proficiency out here. And we actually do that portion of it.
So they're roughly 6 months when you get them.
They don't put them into training until they're about probably a year and a half, and so sometime in that between a year and 2 years is when they actually put them out to the field.
Okay. And is there any selection, or this is a dog you're getting?
They do a questionnaire on a lot of people when they go through, and they say, hey, what's your family life? Because the dogs do stay with us at our house. I like to say that I stay with mine because his dog house is better than mine, which it is. So, but yeah, they ask you questions and they try to pair up the right dog. What animals do you have at home? And so, because they know the temperament of the dogs that they've been training, they do a fairly good job at that.
And how many different breeds do they typically do?
It's not breed specific.
Well, it's dog and what they think it's capable of.
It could be a mixed breed. Doesn't have to be purebred. A lot of your mixed dogs actually get the best traits from each one of the breeds they come from, and that could be the best dog you've ever had. So and you see a lot of that. They use, like right now we're using, because we actually search people. Just returned from the Super Bowl. I went down and worked Super Bowl for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Sweeping. I did media row. Did a live interview with on the news here in Kansas City from New Orleans, which was kind of neat.
Awesome.
Yeah, they kind of threw me off because I hadn't been on camera a whole lot. And the guy goes, well, I'm going to tap you out here on the leg because we're on a knee with the dog. He goes, if I start tapping, that means they're telling me to cut it off. Well, I was in the middle of a thought, and he taps me, and I said, "Well, that's what we do." And everybody goes, "Oh, you got nervous." I said, "No." I said, "That's not." And you can watch the guy. He actually switches hands on his microphone, goes down, starts tapping my leg, and I was just kind of, I was like, "Why?"
The media.
Yeah,
You should have just kept on going. Just hogged it. Just
yeah. It was a lot of fun though. It was actually at the NFL experience, and I was so shocked. Luger was. You sit there all perfect, and you got kids throwing footballs in there and everything like that. And I was just like, well-behaved dog.
Wow.
there were a lot of dogs down there, weren't there?
There were a lot of dogs. National security event like that. Of course, the president showed up at the Super Bowl. They classify major events like that, and that's when they increase the security levels and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a plethora of resources that go into making something like that safe.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's a neat experience.
So you get the dog roughly a year old, so somewhere around that age, and then you're starting to do the training yourself, or do you have to go places and do training, or?
Well, that works in two different ways. We actually get our canine where we're at, and we have to acclimate them to the areas because they haven't been exposed to our airport,
Right.
our locations, everything we do. We train in various venues, warehouses, rental car facilities, get them used to vehicles, bus lots, buses, aircrafts.
Yep.
We put them on aircrafts, and so we have to acclimate them to that before we ever even start exposing them to any detection work. And that's also part of building the rapport. Once once you build that rapport, it comes together, and then you can start in the detection, and they know dog knows the handler knows the dog, and
Right.
it works out. We like to say, I say it, but I like to say that you're truly not a true team until you've been together for 2 years.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, and it's just, you're learning each of your things. And there's things you do as a handler that you're just like, I cued the dog to do that. I didn't know I was doing that. And that's why it's nice for other people to get extra eyes on there.
Right.
We do have trainers assigned. We have one trainer assigned to our location, and they're there to help us. And we travel. We do joint training exercises with the local explosive detection dogs here in the area. Just had one yesterday up at the airport we hosted. Several agencies were there. Both we had Fort Riley and Fort Leavenworth Canine teams there, military. So we like to work hand in hand. It's going to be a big thing around here because of the World Cup coming next year.
Right.
So
Right.
we're all going to be working hand in hand together, doing these larger venues.
So what makes the dog even know what it's smelling for or looking for? I mean,
We take their natural traits, like bird dogs.
Mhm.
We use floppy-eared dogs because we're around people. Sporting breed dogs are the floppy-eared, and then you get in your working breed where it's your pointed-eared dogs. We call it like shepherds, Dutchies.
that makes sense. I never even thought about it that way.
Malinois. So we take their natural abilities, bird dogs. They're out in the field. They're air scenting. We take that ability. We mold that and bring it inside. Well, the dog's got to have a drive for a reward of some sort. So they got to have something to work for. And then we just take that actual odor. You take an explosive, whatever explosive you want to use, you imprint the dog on that explosive. Like the dog, they're always passive response dogs for explosives because you don't want no aggressive dog on that because boom, you're done. You only make one mistake as an explosive detection dog
Yeah.
handler. Okay.
Yeah, get one chance.
Yeah, pink mist only happens once. So so we train them on that. We imprint them on that odor, and we do that with all the odors that they need to be imprinted on, base odors. And then we test them and we put that in the areas after we take it out of this imprinting phase. And if we have the dog sit, we cue that with getting the reward, and then that's all paired together with the odor, the dog's response, and the play.
Wow. So how many odors are there for the explosives?
There depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
Our agency, I won't go into that.
No, that's fine. Is it 10 or is it 1,000?
In between that.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, that's interesting. And what is your dog's reward? What's he like?
He likes the squeaky tennis ball, the
Right.
regular size tennis ball, not the extra large one. So, and my wife Perry, she'll sit at home and she'll be watching reels or something like that. And she loves the ones with the dogs, and there'll be a squeaky toy on there, and it doesn't matter where he's at in the house. Boy, he comes flying in there. Where is it? Yeah, and it's like, well, the sound must be really good on that phone because he thinks it's right there.
That's funny.
That's like my dog with the jar of peanut butter.
You learned a secret with that, right? How to cut their toenails.
No.
They started doing the saran wrap around the foreheads and stuff like that. And they put peanut butter on it, and then the dog would lick that while you're cutting their toenails. But take these hats, and you take the like on the hat, you can actually take it and take a paper plate. You slide each thing through, and then you clip it. You put it on the paper plate so you don't have a saran wrap, so you don't look as stupid.
Good idea.
Yeah, all I know is that Perry just squealed just now because you said her name, so she'll be happy.
Got a plug for my wife because without her, none of this is possible.
So how many hours a day can the dog comfortably work?
It really depends on the dog and their stamina and their age. We do have a requirement why the dogs, it's probably about 43% of our day. I say about, it is 43%. They found that happy medium. That's where you're not overworking the dog, which makes all the people who are animal supporters say, okay, you're not overworking them.
Right.
Plus it gives the handler, because dogs don't have thumbs, so we got to do all the typing, we got to do the driving, so they ride comfortably, take naps on while we're doing all that,
doing dog stuff.
Yeah. They're doing what dogs do. These dogs they wear do not pet signs, but that's mainly because they work around people, and we don't want them going to people. We want them working. So people petting them all the time, they wouldn't be working. So they get plenty of loving. Matter of fact, I let people pet my dog because he knows the difference now between work and play. And
so that was the next question. They do know when they're working, when they're playing. They do.
A lot of dogs are equipment orientated. So when I get ready to come home, I put on his Kansas City Chiefs collar.
Mm-hmm.
I take off his harness, and he knows we're going home. When we go to work, last thing I do before I take him out of the truck, I take the Chiefs collar off, hang it up, put on his harness, and he wears that harness the rest of the day at work. And he's working from the time he gets out of that truck.
Wow. And
we've tested that by, we put stuff around as soon as he comes out of the truck. Is he sniffing? And sure enough, he is.
How often do they get tested like that, where there's something hidden that you guys know about?
We do advanced proficiency training almost on a daily basis.
Okay. So they're finding their reward all the time then, because that's what they're after.
Well, we give the reward to them, but it's a game to them. They find what they have to find to get the reward. And it's a game to them. It's like the handler on the end of the leash has got to be the smart one, which is a scary thought when you look at some of us. So we have to make the decisions because it's just a game to the dog.
Yeah. And how many of you guys are usually working? How many dogs are working at the same time?
It varies.
We don't.
You always got to have enough to cover what you got going on, and it really varies. Like I said, when we went to the Super Bowl, I could tell you there's probably triple digit dogs there.
It's amazing they could all be there together and not just start acting like dogs and playing.
Things do happen.
They're all neutered though, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We just don't talk about that way. There's no paperwork. You don't talk about, can't believe that happened. Less paperwork if you don't talk about it.
But it happens more often than you want to admit, right?
Yeah.
They ever going to make the dogs wear a camera too? Or are they already doing it?
We have the GoPros and stuff that you can put on the dogs, and it's very interesting you say that. Somebody asked me that today because they were doing a inventory of our cameras and stuff. So we have a couple GoPros that actually fit on the harnesses. But if you ever try to watch the video of a dog wearing a GoPro,
instantly sick.
It's worse than after you drank a 12-pack of beer and you're looking through goggles. You'll get sick to your stomach.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I tried to put my GoPro on my dog, and it was unwatchable. There was no, I mean, he's kind of spastic anyway, and
It's like the police cameras on their chest when you're watching some of these TV shows and they have those and they're bouncing around as they're showing it, the view from that. Times that by about 100, and that's what you're getting when it's on a dog.
You were talking about him working, and when I met him, I was amazed at how disciplined he was. He just sat there. Everybody walking by, he just sat there while we talked, and you know, I greeted him and met him. But then when kids wanted to come up and see him, and you gave him the go ahead, then he, you know, he started wagging his tail. He went over and met the kids, and then as soon as they went and walked away, he came right back and sat down and was back to being very disciplined and just sat there and waited. Was very patient.
We do that, and a lot of times we'll actually test the dog because they're explosive detection. They hit moving targets because if people have something, we walk decoys by. Actually, volunteers actually come in and we actually put stuff on them, and we train with them, and they walk around the airport. We have somebody keeping eyes on them at all times, but we walk a person by that has something on it while we're engaged in conversations like that, because the dog doesn't look engaged.
Right.
When you walk somebody by, those particles are coming off of that person. And believe it or not, those dogs pick up on it and they'll follow it.
Yeah.
And you want them to do that because you're in an environment where you have to pay attention to your surroundings and people. So yeah, it becomes one of those things where your head's on a swivel, but you're talking to the person. So it's customer service. You mentioned the trading cards that I hand out with a picture. I give those to the kids. Many parents have thanked me because the kids will be crying they're coming through the airport at 4:00 in the morning. I'll walk over and hand the kid the card, and the kid instantly stops crying. Parents like,
That is
Yeah.
cool.
and so it's a customer service thing. We're not there to be, assholes. We're not there to be
That's
assholes.
fine. Yeah.
And so we want people to be comfortable. They're already stressed out enough. They're at the airport that early in the morning. They're flying. A lot of people don't like to travel. So we try to make it as comfortable as possible. And, we give directions a lot. I mean, I'm a canine handler, but I think I have information written on my back because I look official in uniform and stuff like that. So they're like, come up to me, and nobody knows it better than we do because we're in and out of everywhere.
They're there all the time. So is there times the dog is not smelling anything and just working but not smelling anything, to a maybe, to a for sure, or is it always for sure? Once he gets one whiff of it, he knows it's for sure?
We are trained to actually recognize their changed behavior. And we do it to such a subtle manner that when we're training, we actually call it verbal and say, hey, I'm getting a change of behavior, even though we don't know anything's there. And that lets the person that's setting up the training know, okay, they're recognizing this stuff. We go as far as we have a person videotaping the dog searching, and we'll go back and watch that.
See what
And
they're
it's
doing.
easier for you to see from a distance than you're right on top. And you can see, okay, some dogs, as soon as they have a change of behavior, they may lick their nose, or their tail may start wagging a different way, or their ears perk up. And you can pick up on those little subtleties. And that was what I was telling you about. It takes 2 years to build
Understand that.
And some people don't ever get, some dogs are just so simple that they may be sniffing along and there's not a change of behavior that you really see. And then the dog sits and you're just like, oh my gosh, I didn't see anything
Up to that
you
point.
go back and you look at things like that, and you have 5 or 6 actual trainers or handlers looking at this and they're like, you see that right there? And then you know what to look for.
So the dog sitting is kind of them saying for sure, and then there's these traits up to that point.
Well, the traits up to that are enough to say, I'm moving out.
Okay.
Somebody needs to engage this and see what's going on. Now, not everybody is a suicide bomber.
Right.
So the dogs respond. Simply, there's certain medications that are actually made with what's in some of the explosives. And the dogs respond on those people. It's coming out of their pores, or they have the medication on them. And you can, the resolution protocol, you can actually go in and you can look at things like that. And they say, okay, we can clear you based off of this.
So how do you get that a lot? I mean, is that a
It does
daily
happen.
thing?
It happens quite frequently.
Is it?
You got a lot because you have nitrates. As everybody knows, there's nitrate, ammonium nitrate, and all that.
Mhm.
And for AMFO, um, there's nitrates in a lot of things that people use, lotions, um, nitroglycerin, and nitroglycerin pills and stuff like that. So there's nitrodynamite. That's no secret. So
Right.
the dogs will respond on that. And it's cleared through the resolution protocol. You're not going to have the things like Brussels with the suicide bombers at the checkpoint. We haven't had that.
Right.
Knock on wood. We don't want that. But yeah, that's a very rare occasion. And a lot of times the presence of dogs just deters that. We don't know how. The only way you can measure your success, nothing's happened.
Right. Right. Good. Yeah.
So
So can they tell a difference between just a trace and pounds of it somebody's carrying?
well, we do train with different. We train with different different amounts,
Mhm.
all the way from just a smear. Um, Dogs will still have almost the same responses because we train in that realm.
Right. Right.
We do train with lower stuff because of the aircrafts and stuff like that. What would bring an aircraft down? We train with lower amounts like that. But of course, we also do large amounts.
So if I went shooting all morning and then had a flight this afternoon, would a dog pick up that on my hands and the residue?
Quite possibly, yes.
I've always wondered that. 'Cause
Well, we have a lot of people come through with their range bags. We have a lot of people come through with pistols.
That amazes me.
No matter how many times you tell them, hey, you can't travel with that, it still happens. But we get, people they'll have a round in their bags or something like that. It happens. People make mistakes. But yeah, so they can hit on that. We have people that come off of a golf course and the dogs will respond on them. They played golf the day prior and they're wearing the same shoes that they walked off the golf course in.
oh, because of fertilizer.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that.
So, there's a lot of things that you just like, wow, I didn't even think of. You don't think of that. We're getting into that time of year now where the dogs will have a lot of responses. It has to be cleared through the resolution protocol because people are doing a lot of yard work. Right now it's fertilizing season, so weed and feed time.
Yep. Never even thought about that. That's
we get a lot of the range people coming from the range. We ask the questions. We document it in our records and stuff that happened. And we like to say it's positive response.
yeah.
So
because there's nothing wrong with it. It's in the dog's doing. You just got to filter it out, I guess.
Yep. And it's a lower level threat. I mean, still a threat, but knowing we're getting those lower level threats makes you feel a lot more safe that if the higher threat does happen, they're going to do it.
So I know you can't give any details, but have you ever came across a higher threat in real life?
I have not. Not in my retired life, since I retired from the military. Of course, my last year in the military, I was in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, that's all the time, huh?
Encountered it all the time. I mean, Randy could ask my wife this at work, but she literally would be talking to me on the computer on, I don't even remember the app it was or whatever, and she'd hear a siren and everything would go dark because they cut. As soon as that happens, they have to cut all connections for about 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, really?
Just in case somebody was hit by an ID or something. Somebody was hit by a missile or whatever coming in. They have incoming, the mortars and stuff will come in. You don't know where they're at. So as soon as the sirens go off, you hit the ground.
Wow.
And so she's like, you got to find a way to tell me you're okay. So she actually learned how to cope with that, I think.
That's never easy.
But yeah, we encountered a lot of that over there in Afghanistan. A lot of the dogs over there, dogs would get PTSD because they'd be around so many explosions and stuff like that. And we worked with a lot of that, trying to actually get the dogs, because once the dogs have that, it's hard to get them back to work. So there was a lot of research done on that, getting the dogs back to where they're accustomed to loud noises.
Mine hides in my closet every 4th of July. So, and you can't get it out of them.
My retired dog could not stand the batteries when they'd go dead in the fire alarms.
Oh, start beeping.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I can't either. So
Yeah. It was just like, it's like, you need to go outside, buddy, till I get this fixed.
You know, that night, a week ago or whatever, we all had smoke in the air here in town.
oh,
Our smoke alarms were going off.
Really?
And I didn't connect the two because I didn't go outside. I thought something was going on here. Finally realized it wasn't here, but the whole time the dogs were just going ballistic, and all they do is add complication to everything.
To everything.
so kind of show us a couple things that you brought here. I'm kind of interested in that pearl handle pistol.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you. I want to show you this first, and then I'll show you.
All right.
This here is kind of near. This is.
No,
Nope.
you're good.
This is just a little knife my dad gave me. My dad passed away in 2012, but it's made out of airplane steel.
Oh,
Oh wow.
And
So is it stainless or?
you know, I don't know. I'll let you take a peek at it, but this was the last knife he ever gave me. You know, of course, I had to give him a quarter for it because you don't ever. My grandpa taught me. He goes, if you give a knife as a gift, they got to give you a quarter. So now we've kind of upped it to $1 at work. If anybody gives a knife, you got to give them $1.
So what's the principle behind that?
Because you don't want somebody hurting them with a gift you give them. So they actually bought it from you. So if they hurt themselves, it's on them because they bought it.
Makes sense.
And that was just my grandpa used to collect bone knives and stuff like that. So he taught me a lot of things like that. But yeah, that was something my dad made for me and my brothers. He had one made and it was made out of airplane steel. It's hard and it's real heavy. So it's been used on a few deer.
Very cool.
So, but yeah, that's near and dear to my heart.
Randy's talking about is
This detective special, pearl handle detective special. Buddy of mine, his dad had this, and he hadn't come to me one day. He says, "I never sell pistols," and he goes, "But I figured you would respect this because his dad was a real good man. I really enjoyed it. We hunted on their property up in Chillicothe, Missouri, and so I ended up purchasing this from him. I think we paid $800 for it.
Wow.
So that's Smith and Wesson, right?
Yeah.
What's on the trigger? Why is that so big from here?
It was a police pistol. They carried it. The detectives did.
So it's a 38.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't know a whole lot about them. There you go. I'll just give you a holster. You can sit her down in there if you want to. But yeah, it has a slight crack in the pearl, one of the bottom of the pearl handles. But I just loved it, and
Yeah, it's beautiful.
and he knew I would not sell it to make money because those go for, I think, cheapest one he could find online what people were selling for was about $1,250, and I got it for $8. But I like to keep that one. I'll tell you,
Just push the top down. There you go.
I like to keep that one in a special place so when I'm sleeping, it's really safe. I love the revolvers being safe, but when you wake up out of a dead sleep, you don't have to think.
Yep. There's nothing to deal with. No manipulation of anything.
Don't have to worry about your hand being in the wrong spot in the back, getting the slide cut and everything like that.
Yeah, I've never seen that piece that goes on over the trigger before.
I've seen a few of them, but it's only been on the police ones, and this is being the snub nose. I really enjoy that.
See if I can see it on the camera. Yeah, it's big. It makes the trigger a lot wider.
And I don't know if that's for more comfort or whatever. It's all right. You can just leave it right there if you want.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So yeah, that's the story behind that one. And he was actually the guy I was here in Kansas City with, and we went to Dallas together. And we still hunt together, and his kids still call me and Perry aunt and uncle. So real good family. They were originally from Chillicothe.
Very nice.
Shout
piece.
out to John Sperry.
Oh, very nice piece. So I imagine your normal gun you're having to carry you're just carrying a Glock. Is that?
I actually, believe it or not, I carry most of the time. I carry a Smith. I'm a retired Leo. We don't carry in our position.
Oh, okay.
We do not carry in our position. So being a retired military policeman, we're actually covered under the law enforcement officer Leosa.
Mhm.
So I carry off duty. I carry a Smith & Wesson 40 compact.
Okay.
Really enjoy that. Matter of fact, it's on my ankle right now.
Mhm.
I like to have it on. My wife's always like, "Do you have it?" Yeah. So it makes, and we go to restaurants and she's, "Which seat do you want?"
Yep.
And so we
So are
do
you
our-
facing the door or facing away?
I'm normally facing the door or several exits. I got the biggest view of the room normally, and I know the exits. So
It drives my wife crazy. We'll go somewhere and she'll be like, typically it's easy answers face the door for me. But then she'll walk in, there's be doors all over, and she's like, okay, just figure out where you want to sit and let us know so then we can sit down. But
I seen a reel the other day that this lady was saying, she goes, "Oh, it's proper etiquette for the lady to sit in the booth and the man to sit in the chair. That's if there's a booth and a chair on
Right.
either side." And this lady goes, "Unless you're married to a veteran with PTSD, then you're going to let them sit where they want to."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work to carry every day to dress accordingly. And you're going to follow that up with making sure you're in the right position if you ever need to use it.
And my favorite actually on the hip concealed carry is my Kimber Ultra Carry 2.
Mhm.
Kimbers are just, I never thought I'd own a Kimber because I never thought I'd pay that kind of money
Right.
for one. But the story behind mine is very, very interesting. When I was at Fort Hood, my wife and I were actually there for the 2009 shooting
Oh, wow.
so I won't even mention his name who did it, but we were there. And I was a first sergeant for a Wounded Warrior company down there. My wife was she was a family readiness support officer for the entire battalion, so she kind of mentored all the company family readiness people, and so she took care of all the soldiers, and these were wounded soldiers in combat, most of them. And so each company had a company commander, an XO. So we left there, retired. I get a phone call when I lived south of Washington D.C. and I get a call from one of the old XOs. He's a captain. He's at the Quantico going through the escort. Says, "Hey, sir, how are you?" He goes, "Good, first sergeant. What are you up to?" And he says, "Oh," I said, "Well, I'm working for FPS." And he knew I lived there in town. So he says, "Do you know anybody interested in buying a Kimber Ultra Carry 2?" And I said, "Well, how much you want for it?" And he says, $800.
Mhm.
He goes, because he was going to be stationed at Fort Drum, New York. Well, you can't take it to New York.
Right. Exactly.
So he 2 weeks go by and he calls me up. He says, "Anybody interested?" And I'd asked around and everybody's like, "No, I just can't do it. Not interested." He goes, "Well, I got to get rid of this. We're leaving in 2 days." I said, "Sir, best I could do for you, I got $462 in my wallet." He goes, "I'll be over in 10 minutes.
Wow.
So I bought that Kimber Ultra Carry 2 for $462 and had it ever since. And we moved back here, and it was probably about 2 years ago, right after we moved back. He had called me up and he was looking for a letter of comment, basically a letter for an employer
Right.
that I knew him and everything like that. And I said, "Well, I thought you was calling and asked me for that pistol back, sir." He goes, "Oh, you just sold me that back?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "How much would you sold it?" I said, $462. He goes, "Really?" He goes, "I just bought a pistol 2 weeks ago." I said, I wasn't trying to rip you off.
Right.
I said, "But I'd have done that." He goes, "Man, I wish I'd have known that." I said, "But just know I'm not going to offer that to you ever again."
That was your chance.
Yeah.
That was your chance.
One time offer.
Yeah.
No, Kimber makes some nice stuff. I actually got one over here. I'm engraving. A customer came in and wants to put some text and stuff on it, and they are nice. They're a very nice piece.
To shoot a Kimber, it's amazing because it's almost like shooting a pellet gun or a BB gun because of the way their spring's set up in there. It's just, the kick is just unreal. And give you as a plug, I know this is your podcast and everything like that, but seeing the work that you do, I'm going to have you doing some work to my stuff because you got some pretty pieces.
Yeah, we do lots of different things. It's always amazing what people come up with. But have you ever shot a staccato?
I have not.
So they're the 2011, so they're the 1911, but double stack 9mm. And staccatos, they're once you hit the staccato brand, you're up in the upper tier. There's probably some better, but the normal person can never afford those. Staccatos, they're still a couple $1,000s a piece.
That's probably why I don't know about it.
Right. But they're the same thing to me is you can shoot a cheap version in one of those and it's just night and day difference. And it is amazing what a quality firearm can do, no matter what it is. I mean,
You got to pay for quality.
yeah, you do. And most of the time people coming in here, you get some that are looking for that detailed stuff, but most of the time they woke up this morning and decided they need a gun to protect themselves, and they're wanting the cheapest thing, and it's just, or they want the most powerful and the smallest, which don't go together. That's never a fun gun to shoot. And I mean, I would much rather have a woman come in here and buy a 22 than buy a compact 40 because she thinks she needs all the power. It's like, you're never going to train with it. You're never going to do anything with it because it's no fun to shoot. And I get in that debate weekly with people coming in here and talking about it. And you need to be able to train. And if you don't enjoy it and you're not training, I question whether you should even be carrying it. Yeah, a quality gun makes a big difference.
It does. And, like I said, I never thought I'd own a Kimber, but that I happened into that. And I was just like, some of the guys at work are like, how do you get those things? How does that happen for you? It's like, not too long ago, a guy calls me up and says, hey, I have a Glock Gen 5. I think it's like 27, I think. And he's like, selling for $400. It comes with 11 magazines.
Oh, wow. He was prepared.
And I was just like, and it's a 40. I said, well, I got plenty of 40 ammo. So, and I prefer a 40 over the 9. I don't know. I really like the 40, and maybe it's because when I was first agency after I retired, we got 40 ammo.
Yep.
And I've always had 40 ammo, so it's just my thing. Law enforcement, they switch back and forth between 9 and 40s. So I prefer the 40.
Well, you should stay that way because 40 is dying, so you'll just get a lot more of these good deals coming up. I mean, if they would have put the same amount of effort into 40s they put into 9 these last 5 years to bring it up, it would still be much better. The problem is they put so much work into 9, they've got 9 performing almost the same as 40. And I'm just amazed at how many people are against it now. I carried one. If I was going 40, I'd prefer 10mm most of the time. Yeah. But the problem with 10mm now is all they're doing is loading them with 40 powder weight. So you're essentially shooting 40 and paying more money for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're rolling up here on about 50 minutes. So
wow, this has gone fast.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to talk about the hog gun.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, this I set up here. I got the quick release for my battery, and I got a battery that'll run this thing for about 3 weeks straight.
Wow.
Without having to be recharged, which is nice to have. And it just quick adapts on the side.
Plug it right in.
Basically right on.
Oh, so you're just running, you got like a USB.
Yeah, instead
backup.
of using this for a magazine pouch, I just did that. Yep. And it works out real well.
Yeah.
But this is a 6.8. And I like this. The 6.8 is similar to your Creedmoor and 6.5. Yep. Puts a good hole in the pig, puts them down. When we're hog hunting down there, of course, they're nuisance animals. They're tearing everything up. So farmers are just like, get rid of them. Yep. So, I mean, farmers are almost pay you to get rid of get rid of the hogs. But yeah, I had this friend of mine when I moved to Dallas. He's not as big as what you got going on, but he would build guns and stuff like that. He found a guy online out in Kentucky who had built this 6.8, and I think I got just the base model 6.8 for $600.
So what brand is it?
Looks like a Anderson. And your manufacturer. Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, like I was telling Randy when we started talking about doing this, I was telling Randy, I said, I don't know all the numbers on things. I said, I know what feels good and everything like that. So I'm kind of a gun nut, but I'm not into the, if it's a Glock, it's a Glock.
You enjoy
What kind
shooting
of,
it?
What kind of ammo's in it? Oh, it's a Glock. It shoots 40s. All right, that's Glock 40. I'm good. But and I got Smiths. Give me the names and stuff like that. I know. I got my Mossberg rifle there. That was
So back before we go to another rifle, on that, what resolution is that thermal? Do you know? Do you recall?
I do not.
Okay.
It's a super Hulkster. I'd have to look all that up for you.
I was just curious. I mean, I've been amazed at most of the time they're really low, which I'm sure yours isn't, somewhere around the under 100. But then they jump to like 300 range for resolution, and then the 600. Now they're coming out with 1200, and the amount of clarity is just amazingly different. But what I've noticed is if the conditions are right outside, if you don't have a lot of humidity in the air and you're not going much past 100 yards, you can't tell the difference unless you get up to you start getting the humidity is what really affects them. But the humidity, or can you tell the difference between like a rabbit and a fox at 100 yards?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you got a higher resolution one.
And I can zoom in. It's pretty spot on. I can zoom in. It's crazy. But we normally 100's about. We can see. We'll see out about 200, but most of the shots that we take, because it's kind of brushy where we're at, but you can see very clear. But our shots are about 100. Most of our stuff's all set up at 100 wherever we have our stands.
And you mentioned before we started the cast that you take that off and use it as a handheld.
I do.
Or, impact point, or isn't shifting or anything on you?
Not a bit.
That's awesome.
It sits right on there, clips back on, and no issues whatsoever. I did that the first time I did it. I sighted it in, had it dead on, and I pulled it off and just went the day with it off, and then the next day I put it back on.
Wow.
Shot just like I did the day before.
So you do use any night vision too, or just the thermal?
I had an IR, but I ended up selling that to a friend of mine. I had the IR, which was nice. It was affordable at the time, and of course my wife got me that one. So
can't complain about that.
Thing about guns, if I get a gun, she gets a purse.
That's a good trade-off.
Yeah. So she's got a few. She got a few purses.
So what's the next one? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I didn't know. You said we're coming to the end. I said we can always talk about it another time or whatever. But yeah, that's probably a longer story for another time, because that's better than the Kimber story. How I come into that. But yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to get out there? Any good stories that you can tell us or anything?
I appreciate you having me. I really do.
Appreciate you coming.
I'm new to this stuff, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, we will definitely like to have you back if you ever want to come back, and maybe we can dig into a little bit more into hog hunting or something and see what that's all about.
Maybe we'll be able to talk about a trip we went on together, hog hunting.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do on my bucket list is going to be hog hunting from a helicopter.
You only got to go to Oklahoma for that.
I know, but it's expensive.
I had a buddy who did it, and he enjoyed it. But yeah, he used to own Canyon Stone over here in Olathe.
Oh, okay.
Buddy I went to high school with.
Yeah.
And he told us stories about going out and doing that. I said, well, I can take you hog hunting, but we ain't doing no helicopter.
I just think it would be a blast.
It would be. Yeah. It's just like the Super Bowl was a bucket list for me. I checked it off, and it didn't cost me a dime.
That's pretty nice. Yeah. Get to go work it. That makes it pretty darn nice. Yeah. That is awesome. Well, we sure appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. Like, you're always welcome back. And I think that's about it. You got anything, Randy?
Nope. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you.